Hello and welcome back to a brand new YouTube video. The topic being discussed today is related to Google AI Studio and the possibilities available within it. Inside Google AI Studio, various tools can be accessed. To begin, let's explore the process of creating an app. Right now, the dynamic text section is not available because no app has been created yet. There is a showcase option that presents several choices. It allows starting with a template or constructing a dynamic text adventure game by using both Gemini and Imagen. These tools work together to create a text-based adventure game. Within the template section, there are multiple configurations. Prompts can be entered, live agents can be developed, and video content can be generated through the video model. There is also an image model available along with a shared example that can be utilized either as a reference or for streaming. Additionally, an OpenAI Studio capability is provided and can be applied. For now, the focus will be on selecting the code review build option. An automated code review tool is available that utilizes Gemini to analyze code and offer suggestions. Once this tool is accessed, it instantly displays file details and a prompt. An input form appears initially, which becomes active as soon as the code is complete. Similarly, all functionalities become operational in the code. It can be deployed on Cloud Run if direct access to cloud processes is desired. Naturally, this step may take a few moments as the system processes how to design the application, structuring the input, enhancing the user interface, conceptualizing the components, and outlining the essential functions. The next steps include designing the prompt, developing a Gemini service, and integrating all elements into a single prompt. These processes are managed automatically. Additionally, the tool provides a code reviewer tagline, and a code preview becomes visible. Since an index.html file has been created, a preview of the code should appear, which can be used after placing the code inside the header. It can now be incorporated. Up until this point, there hasn't been any time to explore the files being processed. The visible code is actively being written, and this highlights the core strength of Google AI Studio, its ability to autonomously generate complete code incorporating all necessary dependencies. It also manages task history and offers version control that can be applied. Moving toward the end of the prompt, the entire tool was created in less than a minute. If there's a need to write in Python, then a relevant code must be written.
A code snippet has been generated through AI, providing a more enhanced choice. A specific instruction was given to create a code snippet containing 3 errors. The next step is to check whether these errors are carried over when clicking the option to review the code. At this point, the tool will automatically begin reviewing the Python code, and after the analysis is complete, a response will be provided accordingly. At the back end, this process is powered by the Gemini API, enabling all operations to be handled directly. The code can be closed here, and following that, a review is generated. The code review is presented as though it has been evaluated by a senior software engineer, stating, "I have reviewed the Python code snippet," and then continues with detailed feedback. It identifies the general issue, possible bugs, syntax concerns, and suggestions to improve performance. A thorough explanation is provided in response to the query. This entire process is supported by Gemini and intended for educational use. With a single click, multiple programming languages become visible. Any of these languages can be deployed as needed. Direct deployment is also possible through an option to publish the application to Google Cloud Services, which makes the app accessible via a public URL. For instance, if a project is already created and there's a need to access billing settings, once the billing configuration is completed, the app can be deployed. From that point on, anyone nearby can use it. Additionally, if there's a requirement to save it directly to Google Drive, that can be done by linking Google Drive and utilizing it directly. Returning to the build section, multiple options are visible here, which can also be initiated with a single click. The second project in focus is building a dynamic text adventure game using Gemini's Imagen. In this case, the game's structure is first understood, followed by the implementation of core loops. The logic then comes into play. It's worth mentioning that this particular feature from Google has been refined significantly. In addition to this, tools like Bolt are available, and one of the most valuable aspects within Google is the foundational knowledge that is deeply embedded. The core logic outlines that all the data structures and components being used are already well optimized. Whether referring to code logic or foundational game concepts, if the game's logic is unintentionally disrupted, the results will not be favorable. However, when using both of these tools effectively, attention can now shift to a third tool known as Lovable. Among these tools, there exists the potential for a live coding environment. since this also supports that capability. So, across all three tools, a live coding scenario is possible. However, when it comes to data protection and regulatory compliance, issues such as data breaches, embedded backend logic, or security aspects of the code, along with potential vulnerabilities, need to be considered. While these tools are still in a raw state, Google has established a complete infrastructure to address such concerns effectively. It generates all necessary files in minimal time while maintaining maximum efficiency. The code can now be closed, as it has already been generated. Opening the preview displays the Gemini Adventure tool. It allows crafting a unique story by describing a theme and an initial scenario. For example, if an idea is needed, it could be something like a person standing on the edge of a cliff. Once the adventure begins, many interactive keywords appear, which is only possible when using enhanced tools. A scenario is then presented, followed by an option, such as navigating a narrow path that disappears into the rocks. From that point, it's possible to scan the distant horizon using various types of visualizations. A command can be given to examine the cliff carefully, and the system will then offer the option to continue to the next part of the narrative. The story progression can be directly guided, and if advancing to the following section is desired, that can be done instantly. This acts as an interactive storytelling experience used to design a Gemini-based adventure. Navigating to the assistance section allows access to save checkpoints, enabling restoration of the code from the next available checkpoint. Different versions in the history can be viewed. The standard version is displayed here, and no modifications have been made so far. The interface shows a white color theme with a slightly handwritten font style. Once this version is included, the preview will be closed and the code editing mode will be activated. At that point, it will analyze the visual appearance changes and immediately navigate to the section that needs to be adjusted. Edits and modifications can be made from there, particularly in HTML, where font preferences. The font family currently in use will be switched to base routing. However, before applying this change, the system finalizes all remaining elements. It completes the game screen setup and processes the underlying logic. Multiple iterations are available without restrictions. With other tools, limits may apply before transitioning to a paid version, but here no such plan exists. It simply requires waiting while the tool completes every task, entirely free of charge. At this stage, the base edit will be initiated along with all setup processes. The index.html procedures will begin, and everything will be stored within version history. These changes can then be directly reviewed. For example, modifications made to index will be visible, and ideally, font adjustments will reflect as well. The current setup includes Inter and sans serif, but now a more scalable option is presented. Adjustments have been applied to the app, including changes within the index file. After applying all updates, the output will be a more polished and streamlined version of the application. The interface appears minimalistic with a bright background. At this point, the game screen is also being integrated. The video remains unpaused intentionally to allow observation of how each new line of code is generated. All checkpoints are displayed. The code view is closed, and the preview is now active. In the preview section, the font and other configured elements are clearly visible. Any of the available options can be used. A random prompt has been applied here. It resembles a reading or handwriting style, and the system has fully processed it. If an additional scenario needs to be included, it can be added, and the handwritten appearance remains very polished. This now seems to represent the finalized version of the tool, which can be utilized moving forward. For deployment, as mentioned earlier, sharing the application directly is possible by signing into an account. Once signed in, the app can be shared. The checkpoints are still available, and to reload the app, the Restore button can simply be clicked. Restoring from checkpoints will return access to the application, specifically to the relevant coding section. It navigates back through the structure and retrieves the previous version. If uploaded directly to GitHub, this connects users and the wider audience to the tool, providing access to newer versions along with a complete version history. This allows for a more organized layout. Every change within a particular section can be reviewed, making it easier to manage everything. Using this tool is recommended, firstly, because it is entirely free. Secondly, it supports thoughtful development. It also handles logical structures, identifies potential vulnerabilities, and addresses security concerns effectively. Hopefully, the content proves helpful. Consider subscribing and enabling notifications to stay updated on additional use cases and features related to Google's capabilities.